Now, listen, do we need a reason to rank players and give players on Georgia's football team a rating? No, we don't need a reason. But what if I was to tell you, Clint, that the best possible reason that could be made available to us has been made available to us? And we're going to talk about that today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Clint. He is Daniel. Together, we are Locked On Bulldogs. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, more on them in a moment. Thanks for being today's title sponsor. Daniel, you did allude to it. There's no better reason than off-season talking points to rank players. But, oh, wait, there is a better reason. Because what if I was to tell you that we will have an actual metric, not a real metric, just like it's real as it exists.
It's as real as the AP poll.
It's as real as the AP poll. Correct. It's out there. It's a actual thing you could look at and see. It's not part of the matrix.
It does mean nothing, but
it means nothing. The weight to which is purely to make people entertained, either happily or begrudgingly and rambunctiously. But we have EA Sports Video Games has said, hey, how about we give you the greatest video game we've ever created in our entire lives? Is coming back. College Game Day on your platform. We're going to have college football. It's going to be.
If this doesn't move the needle for you, God bless you and shame on you. All in one.
This is. I don't know
how to relate to you if this
there
doesn't
is
do anything for you.
Generation. When I say this is a generational video game, I'm not exactly. There has literally been a generation of people who have grown up in a world in which EA Sports college football has not been a thing. It's not reality, and that's on you, EA.
It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy, but it's being rectified. And this summer, there's a college football video game coming out, which means, Clint, most importantly, is that the players for this year's Georgia football team are going to be in the game, so to speak, pun intended. And so that means we don't have to speculate about who the roster is going to be populated with when it comes to the Georgia Bulldogs. We know that these players are going to be there. And so today, what we thought we would do is we thought we would do a little public service announcement for the people at EA. By the way, if you're watching this and you're an executive at EA, thanks so much for watching the show, listening to the show, subscribing. We're going to tell you who the highest ranked players on Georgia's team ought to be.
And as a thank you, just throw your boys a quick access code.
Maybe just give us a little bit of an advanced copy. That's all it is that we're asking for here.
By the way, Daniel, if there's ever been a video game in which we'll make people throw hands if it sucks, this is it. Like, you better, EA Sports people, you better be keeping it quiet that you work on this project.
I honestly, God, don't even know how it could suck, because it's going to be now 3, 4, 5 years from now. Sure, you'll have people complaining that this game sucks, but the joy of just playing the game is going to be so great that it doesn't even really matter. All right, let's get into it, Clint. We're going to start at the top. Now, we're not going to actually assign numerical values to these players.
We're not.
We're just going to list them in order that they should be rated from the highest rated player on Georgia's entire roster, moving on down the list. And we'll get through a handful of players here. But I think at the top, Clint, you're going to have Carson Beck. And so let's just start there. I think that is the clear-cut top-rated player on Georgia's team. There's no one on the defensive side of the ball that I think is going to warrant a rating above Carson Beck. There's no one else on the offensive side of the ball that I think you could argue should be a higher rated football player than Carson Beck. He's a Heisman Trophy front runner, favorite, contender, whatever you want to call it. He is one of the best statistical quarterbacks from last season, now coming back. Another year in the offense, same offensive coordinator, even more weapons to work with. And so I think the conversation begins with Carson Beck.
It's really interesting to me because I don't disagree. He is the best college quarterback that we have. Please stop with comparing him to anybody else.
Please stop with the Shedeur Sanders.
Gosh. You know what? That person in your life that keeps on saying, well, if I had this and if I had this and if I had this, then I'd succeed.
Okay. You mean Shedeur Sanders?
I mean Shedeur Sanders. Great. You have all of them. If you don't succeed, you know what that says? You suck more than I thought.
Yeah.
You have a new OC. You're like, okay, great. You have new weapons. Okay. You get transfer. Okay. You don't have the jokers anymore. That luggage was brought in with you. Oh, okay. Now go out and do it. Except you won't. So
except you won't.
Anyway,
because you can't. Because it's all just
Carson Beck can.
Yeah, he can and does.
This is interesting. I think I'm going to ask you the drop off between 1 and 2 because I actually want to make an argument that I think the drop off between 1 and 2 at Georgia is not as grand as people think.
I tend to agree, and so I tend to agree that Carson Beck is
he's
number one, but I think below him you actually have a couple of names of guys that could be very interesting choices. And so Clint, why don't you give your number 2 here, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Look, guys, Malachi Starks is the best safety in next year's draft class as well. He's the best player we have on defense. He is going to be the anchor point. He has been an anchor point. The kid started as a true freshman in the SEC for a returning championship club in Georgia. Like this is next level talent, instincts, physicality, speed, smarts, everything. On the defensive side of the ball, he is the best safety in college football. I don't care about anything else. And the drop between 1 and 2, Carson Beck is number 1. Number 2, Malachi Starks. And you're right, Daniel. There are a number of people that I want to kind of group in a tiered system. If we were just doing tiers, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, there's a lot of people I'd put in this top tier, the upper echelon, the 1%ers in college football. There's a couple more, but Malachi Starks, I mean, guys, look at what he is able to accomplish, single-handedly saving a season in which Daniel had a lot of vested interest that night on a birthday weekend celebration at Missouri, in which single-handedly saves our season and championship run that year. And every single time he's in the game, he is an eraser on the passing game, as well as he has to come up in secondary run support. But if he is in that run support role, he's another eraser. Everything top to bottom. This dude is just him.
Malachi Starks is going to be an absolute force, a fun guy to play with in this video game for sure. I think an easy choice for a second highest ranked player. Next guy might surprise some people, but we'll talk about that right after this.
And this is Ibotta. Daniel, I don't know if you understand. There's been a lot of conversation around economic measures and means and inflation data. And
is that a thing? I've never heard anyone talk about that.
You and I probably we've been ignored. We're not the common folk. We're not the peasants. So let's get down and start talking about how feeding a family on cereal and staples at the grocery store is a frightening affair. It's a
tough sled. Right now.
Tough sled, tough go. But if I was to tell you that there's a way in which you could save money each and every time you go to the supermarket to get the groceries. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year for an app. That could be an entire grocery bill just for going to the app and seeing what you can use, where it is. Download the Ibotta app. It is Ibotta. It's fantastic. Spring break is around the corner, which means you can go shopping, but don't just shop for the big trip and get nothing in return. Make sure you're getting cash back every time you shop with Ibotta. Join the over 50 million users and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands, retailers, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store, Google Play, download the free Ibotta app, start earning cash back, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta at the Google Store or Apple Store, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Yeah, I think you and I may shock some folk with number 3, Daniel, because there's a lot of names to choose from, but I think number 3 people are going to be like, wait, hold on, that can't be true.
I'm going to go with the transfer running back, Trevor Etienne at number 3. Clint, listen, I think this was a massive pickup for this Georgia offense.
We ranked him as the most explosive impact player in the transfer portal that Georgia got this year.
Absolutely. And I think he comes in and I think he immediately establishes himself as the most credible threat that Georgia has on the offensive side of the ball, regardless of position, in terms of the skilled weapons around Carson Beck. And so
yeah, I think you're right.
I love what he brings in the explosive run game. Obviously, speed, the ability to break tackles, the ability to pull away, the acceleration. It's all going to be there. He's proven it before at at an SEC level. And so I think for the powers that be that are making this game, I think they're gonna have that data to go on, and they're going to be able to accurately rate him as one of the best players that's on this Georgia team. And it's crazy to think that we didn't even need him. We didn't want him. And yet he steps in and is the guy that I'm saying it might be the 3rd highest rated player on this Georgia team.
Sona Michel, DeAndre Swift. Do you remember the impact they would bring to a running game? Now, Nicholas Chubb is just untouchable category. Stop uttering his name, okay?
Don't.
But I can say, do you remember DeAndre Swift put his foot in the ground? Look at what happened when the Eagles actually fed him the ball in a running game and didn't allow. That's weird. You were unbeatable. Okay. That's what Etienne can bring to this team. Yeah. Like the more that it sits with me, the more I ruminate on it, Daniel, the more I am thrilled with this. Like this is a page turner of an offensive playbook type guy in there. I think he has 3. Number 4, Daniel, we might diverge a little bit here because I actually think that you know how progression goes in season in these video games and you get better, like points start adding up and you do
okay.
I think that this guy has a chance to be the 4th best player on Georgia's team if we're simulating this year out. Okay. But if you don't understand who Ernest Green is at left tackle, if you don't understand,
I was afraid you were going to go somewhere weird, but that's not weird at all. That's that's legitimate.
Guys,
look at what he did last year.
What did he do, Daniel?
He didn't give up anything.
Goose egg.
Anything. What was his job, I wonder? Was it
to stop anybody from getting close to Carson Beck and to open holes in which the running backs that were oft injured and using a wide receiver at times back there to continue to be a punctuation mark in an offense that was rolling?
So you're saying that he just did everything that we needed him to do consistently, down in and down out.
Everything, guys. He's a monster. He is big and physical and finesse, and he's got a left arm that will stab you in the shoulder pads and knock you off your course of trajectory. Ernest Green has a chance to be 4th best or 3rd best by the end of this year on this year's team. He's one of my favorite players on this team, and one of the reasons I'm so excited for this offense.
I'm going to go 5th best. I'm going to go back over to the defensive side of the ball here. And I honestly think maybe I think in my mind, I've got 5th and 6th on the defensive side of the ball. I'll be interested to see what you say. But 5th, I'm going to go Smile Mondon. I think Smile Mondon is one of the
You were
most
high on Smile coming up with this. Like you are writing. That's your dude.
I think he's one of the most undervalued and underrated players on this Georgia team. I think everyone is enamored with the freshman linebackers because of what we were able to see last year. But make no mistake, the heart and soul in the middle of this defense is not CJ Allen.
Nope.
It is Smile Mondon. And so I am very high on him. He's got speed. He's got athleticism. And fully healthy, the ability to come back for a junior season, put it all together, lead the defense, take charge, take ownership of that room. I think you're going to see a lot out of Smile Mondon this year. And I think just look at talent. And it's hard to find more talented players on this team than Smile Mondon. He is an exceptionally gifted and talented football player.
All right, Daniel. I'm interested to see who you would say you go back to back on defense, because I'm a little remiss that he's this far down on our top list so far. I think he has a chance to be a steal of the draft and somebody that this year makes us not so much miss Brock Bowers. We will miss Brock Bowers, but he's going to make that a very soft landing for us. You see how I tied in the economic stuff, the inflation data from First Read.
Wow. Listen to this guy.
Just dovish and hawkish and the whole thing. Look, I think Dylan Bell, like, we have talented wide receivers, but
sure,
if you we have a ton of them. Okay. But Dylan Bell moves the needle for me so much on this Georgia team. If you were to give me NBA Jam Session, you just get a couple on a bench. If you're giving me Carson Beck, Travis Etienne, and Dylan Bell as my 3, and let's roll against them, y'all. Just let that sink in for a hot second. That's your 3-headed monster on offense. Guys who have the ball a large majority of the time. I think I would put Dylan Bell up there, but I'm open to hear.
See, this is why you can't spend your off season. Now, I'm biased. I get that. But you can't spend your off season listening to the national media types talk to you about Georgia football players.
Please stop. Because
they don't know who Dylan Bell is.
No clue.
These folks don't know who. These folks out here talking about Rah and Dominic Lovett, and they're all great players.
Sure. We love them.
Sure, good players.
Yeah.
They're talking about transfer wide receivers. They're talking about this, that, and the other. Because
Cole Young, glad to have you here, brother.
Because they've seen those names most recently in the news because they transferred. Well, little old Dylan Bell didn't transfer. No. All he did was put his head down and keep working. And all he did last year was, in stretches, carry Georgia. Like,
literally
carry us.
Was the reason we were competitive in many, many games.
You saw the progression, the development, even in the season last year, Clint. Now I tell you, what does he do with an entire offseason with Mike Bobo? What does he do with an entire offseason with that coaching staff to get in the film room, to get extra reps with Carson Beck, to be out there playing catch, lifting weights, running routes, a spring practice, a fall camp, all of this and that and the other coming up? Dylan Bell has got a chance to be an absolute problem at wide receiver.
McConkey was injured for a majority of this season. He might be one of the top 3 wide receivers coming out of this draft class. And our offense didn't skip a beat with Ladd out because of Dylan Bell. Like, do you see? You want to talk about transitive property?
No. I'm sorry, Clint. When your best wide receiver's out, the games don't count because your team gets terrible. No one can play anymore. They have to cancel all the games. It's an asterisk by it. It doesn't.
Well, when you're sponsored by Just for Men, yes, that's the case.
That is accurate. Somebody tell Kalen DeBoer how to stare at the camera while he gives that post-game interview. That's all I care about.
Well,
Somebody,
it's the back and forth.
Yeah.
It's the
over here. My eyes are up here, Kalen. We'll be back. We've got more names to discuss right after these.
This is, in fact, FanDuel. FanDuel, Daniel and I love them. You should love them too. And right now, you should be excited because you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, I went Dylan Bell, but I left myself open because, again, there's a lot of guys. What would you say? How would you counter my Dylan Bell? Who else would you put right after Smile Mondon?
I'd put right there together. I'd go Dylan Bell. By the way, I just got to get it in here. I got to just squeeze it in here.
Sure.
I know it's been a rough couple of weeks. $199. I know it's been a rough couple of weeks.
Gurf, lean in.
You got a shot to beat Florida tomorrow.
Come on.
And listen, this team still got some things to play for. It's not the NCAA tournament, but this team still got some things to play for. I'm curious to see how the off date didn't play a game. It's been a week since we played. I'm curious to see. No team in the SEC needed an off day more than Georgia did. Curious to see how that has impacted the team and how they come out tomorrow at the Steg against Florida, a team we should have beat on the road earlier this year, but couldn't get it done. Can we get it done? Right there with Dylan Bell, I'm going to go Michael Williams. Yeah. Because the talent is through the roof, Clint. If this were a measure of pure talent, he's number one on this list.
Yeah, combine only numbers. He's it.
He's it. Now, he has not shown the consistent ability to put it together.
Man, he made me look like an idiot when I said he was going to lead the SEC in sacks. That's on me. That's me.
He didn't lead anyone in sacks. He did no such thing. But Michael Williams is an exceptionally talented player, and I think will be a very highly rated player in this game. And I hope that in the 2024-25 season for the Georgia Bulldogs, he is an exceptionally productive player. We've heard talk about moving positions. We've heard talk about getting his hand out of the ground, moving him around, letting him use his athleticism. That's all fine and good. What I need to see is consistent production and havoc in the backfield. We know that it's in there. We know that the talent is there. I hate to almost invoke this word, but will we see the motor from Michael Williams that the dominant pass rushers have? Because that's what separates a talented football player from a dominant pass rusher. It is the unstoppable high motor. That's what we need to see from Michael. But I think he's going to be a very highly rated player in this game. And I'll tell you what, I am going to register a buttload of sacks with him when I play this video game this fall. Like, you put me on 13, like I'm just going to move the cursor over to the end of the line, put me on 13.
You get outside that video frame just a little bit.
Yeah.
When you come
that tackle ain't going to have no chance.
Down,
that tackle ain't going to have no chance. No.
There was a cheat code with that, y'all. Okay. Here's where we start getting into the now the lines delineation.
It's getting weird. Things are getting weird.
But I think you have to. I think just on pure excitement of what we have seen out of this cat and the role that he is putting himself back into in this offense and the huge shoes he has to fill. But again, 75% of Brock Bowers is an incredible player. I think Oscar Delp is in the conversation next after Michael Williams for me. That inside the top 10, if you look at this team and just composition-wise, say top 10 players, Oscar Delp has to be mentioned within a top 10 player of talent.
I think he probably does too.
So
I don't disagree.
I'd put him here. Daniel, let's start rattling off a couple more names that would quickly follow Michael and Oscar Delp. Who else you got?
I'm not saying that he falls here on the list because there's other guys. There's going to be other guys. But don't sleep on KJ Bolden being rated very high in this game. Don't sleep on KJ Bolden
I gotta
finding
be honest.
himself near the top.
I gotta be honest, guys. I've been trying to for a long time talk myself out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I need help, and if you can help me, awesome. But the emotional investment I have in KJ Bolden being an All-American his freshman year,
and Ellis Robinson for that matter. I mean, we just throw him right there in the mix.
The emotional, the amount of effort that, and the amount of mental wellness that is tied up in those two being All-American is startlingly high.
Pray for my man over there. He's going through some rough. He's going through a rough stretch right now, and
last
year's defense was not what he needed it to be.
Guys,
he made
did you
some
hear me last year? Did you hear me?
He made some statements, and he had quite a reality check.
I did. I came down off that insane lunacy of just propaganda. I was a propaganda machine for this defense.
Who is going to be, this is a little freebie, who is going to be the most underrated player for Georgia in this video game? Meaning the video game is going to rate them the maximum amount lower than they ought to be rated.
That's a great question.
I think there's a chance that it's Branson Robinson.
We've been doing this podcast for far too long. Far too long. We've been doing this podcast.
I think
that's the name.
I think there's a good chance that it's Branson Robinson.
There's a chance in this game, and there's a chance in season, both parallel lines of reality and not reality, that Branson Robinson could just take over a video game team for you and take over this Georgia running back. We listed ETN as explosive, but you're going to tell me if you tell me in 12 months from now that Branson Robinson was leading this team in rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, and was all SEC and was in the conversation for All-American at running back, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's all a matter of whether or not he's able to start the season. I mean, that's
it.
That's the only question I have about Branson Robinson is he able to start the season? So he's going to be rated way too low in this game because that's a dude. That's an absolute.
He's going to be rated like 83.
He's going to be rated like 63. Like he may not even be in the game. That's how low he's going to be rated. He's going to be like sixth string on the running back depth chart, but I'm telling you, at your own peril, He is Clint. I am Daniel. This has been the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. Excited for the season, excited for some new video games, and we will talk to you guys next week.
See you.